Good afternoon, on what is a warm, bright, and sunny day. It is Monday, the 26th of August. Yes, it is a summer bank holiday, and I'm in the reading with a nice hot cup of tea and a very special package indeed, courtesy of my friend Lee Williams, who has lent this to me so that I can do an unboxing and review it. Because I don't own a copy myself. It's one of my what you call a white whale, the one role playing game you don't have in your collection that you really, really want to have. And it is this Ringworld, the role playing adventure beneath the Great Arch. It is the authorized role playing game based upon the novel by Larry Niven, published in 1970. Won the would have won the Hugo and Nebula Award, I believe, at the time. In fact, I've just actually read it as part of the book group I belong to for the Grognard Files, and it was an interesting discussion about the problems and issues with the novel, but also sort of like the joy of it. And this enabled you to essentially travel to the Ringworld, following in the path of um, Louis Wu, Tila Brown, Speaker to Animals, uh, um, and essentially the puppeteer companion, um, and explore the Ringworld in their wake. So, the most comprehensive guide to Ringworld, unknown space ever published. And this indeed was the fact, because this would go on to essentially be almost the Bible to it. There will be a collected guide to Ringworld, and a lot of the content from this and the companion would end up in that book. So, the pack looped a million mile wide, harder than steel ribbon around a star and set the ribbon spinning. Like a lariat on the Scrith band spun evenly in an orbit comparable to Earth's. Air came and water and soil, and beneath the sun, always at high noon, lived and died man-like beings who knew no other reality. Mysteriously, the pack died out, but upon the ring there came to be many species with intelligence: ghouls, city builders, grass giants, machine people, and their empires and destinies grew bright and or dimmed. Then expeditions from the far stars came, changing the fortunes of Ringworld as surely as Ringworld changed known space, the little bubble of stars which Earthmen know. With the Ringworld game, you and your friends create and take on the life of one or more Ringworld-bound explorers, riding a starship bearing the best 29th century gear and weapons, headed on a mission to this bizarre place previously unknown. You have few reports or rumors by which to guide yourselves, even if, as an explorer, you were fortunate enough to have read Niven's ancient classics concerning this place. You'll find many new intelligent species, dozens of new animals, and alien presences only hinted at. Lewis Will found Ringworld a place of surprises, and so will you. Ringworld is a science fiction author Larry Niven's most famous creation. The authors of the Ringworld game have striven to present it in all its glory. So, Ringworld role playing, following game outlines, players generate limited human personalities and physical characters of known space explorers. These explorers then face challenges and mysteries as though in a Niven tale. During play, an additional participant, the game master, interprets the Ringworld game rules and manipulates setting, time, the forces of nature, and living opponents. These are the players determine their explorers' actions. The game rules indicate an impartial how encounters and combats are resolved. A Ringworld game session becomes a drama of successive dangers and triumphs shared by all. Essentially, about the box front, a crystal dawn and a warband of grass giants lopes across the Ringworld plains, accompanied by the ubiquitous scavengers Darlos. The chieftain giant leads in battle-worn armor. To the left and above the warriors fly the observers, the city builders. Some 10 kilometers beyond the floats the city builder enclave, a survivor of the horrible fall of cities. Aerial traffic around it is visible. To the right, the awesome Rim Mountains. Beyond them is the glimpse of the rim wall itself, 10,000 kilometers distant. The top of the frame and millions of kilometers away soars the full magnificent width of Ringworld, with its characteristic day-night divisions, painted by Ralph McQuarrie. It's an incredible piece of artwork, nicely detailed. Let's show you a bit more detail. There we go. Now, I've actually had the pleasure of playing this twice, and playing the basic introductory scenario on the same occasion. One in back in 1984, 1985, when this was published, and then more recently, a few years ago, at Grogmeet, where it was offered as a scenario. And basically played out the kind of same situation of travelers going from known space to the ring world and beginning to explore it. Let's have a look to see what is in box set. It's a lot. I know I've seen this. I've had a look at it before. If you get a set of dice, these must be the original dice, I'm presuming. Nice for them to be included. And then you get 4 books. Now, there also is also a copy of this in the box, so it's complete. And if you see here, there's a copy of Different Worlds, number 37 from November, December 1984. That's got the only extra content published for the role-playing game beyond these books. Also have, of course, the ubiquitous what's in the box sheet, which explains what's in here. So essentially what we've got here is explains what each of the 4 books does, what the handout sheet is, the cardboard explorers and so on, 5 dice, and then the full credits for the role-playing game presented on the back of that. So we're going to put that to one side because I'm going to do a separate unboxing of that because it's worth taking the time to follow up on that. With luck, that will follow tomorrow. So let's start off with the 4 books, and the first of which is the Explorer's book. Now, I could sit here and do an unboxing of each of the separate books, but I'm going to do the complete game. So this is going to be a lengthy video. Hopefully, because this is, this is being posted on Christmas Day, you'll have time to sit and watch this whilst you digest your Christmas dinner or Christmas lunch. So we open up and we have the character sheet and base list of the authors, introduction to the game, basics of it, and then we get on to Explorer creation. Now, the interesting thing about Explorer creation is done essentially, I think it's like chunks of like 5 years, something like that, because you can actually end up being chronologically very old. You can be 100, 200 or more years old. I mean, after all, the beginning of Ringworld, Louis Wu is basically traveling around the world celebrating his 200th birthday. So here we've got a guide to how to create the character, and it's essentially a basic role-play system, as you would expect from Chaosium at the time. All the role-playing games published by Chaosium use the basic role-play system. You've got a list of various pursuits and occupations that the characters can undertake, and a list of all the skills. Now, it's interesting that what this game did with skills is it allowed you to study a skill up until a certain point, and after that you had to specialize. But basically, oh yes, you could use your firearm combat up to 40%. Above that, you had to specialize in a specific weapon, and you could specialize in multiple weapons above that basic value. We've got a list of the individual skills, and what is really quite noticeable about the layout and of this, it's clean and tidy. It's quite text heavy, but I mean, looking at this and some of the other role-playing games from the period, this is very clean and tidy and very readable. It doesn't hark back to an earlier style, or it's not written like a war game set of mechanics. So then we get into the game system, and essentially it is a percentile system. There's nothing necessarily special about the mechanics. They're standard, basic role-play percentile system. You do have hit locations, but you can see the rules themselves are explained in just a few pages. There really is, it's not extensive by any means. You've got rules in here for also for aging, cold exposure, falls, that sort of thing. And then essentially that takes about half of this book. Then we get on to the basics of what the world of Earth is like in the 29th century and other worlds. So we've got a history of essentially the of this planet and its interactions with other worlds and the colonies and so on up until the 29th century. Of course, going through the various man-Gazin wars. And there we've got the kind of trip distances for journeys between the various worlds of known space. And we move on from the Earth, we'll look at Belt, Canyon, the world essentially which is settled in one canyon on the world, just known for its depth, and that's where it's actually got the atmosphere. And then the various different other worlds of known space settled by mankind, including Jinx, known for their strength and high gravity. And of course, the amusingly named We Made It. And then once we get to the end of Wonderland, we actually move on to options for other character types. Because the base characters are humans, but then we have how to create a Gazin, Explorer, and we've got that fantastic image of an angry Gazin. And the Gazin are an interesting species within role playing, within science fiction, because they came out of the known space setting and would cross over into Star Trek with the episode in the Slaver Box for the Star Trek the Animated Series, and that would be adopted by the Starfleet Battles world, which setting, which was never canonical in terms of the television or series or films, but ultimately you would see the Gazin come back in more recent times. It would have come back into the proposed fifth season of Starship Enterprise before it was cancelled, and I think it's been Gazin have been since mentioned in some of the subsequent Star Trek series. So we've got the basic background of all about the Gazin. In some ways, the Gazin is the one sort of like species that everyone wants to play because they're kind of in your face, raw, and don't take a lot of you know, ribbing, or they have very low intolerance when it comes to interaction, which essentially is why you actually have Gazin like speak to animals, because they've kind of been trained to um, react in a such a way that they won't take essentially they will take offence at insults and slights, but not necessarily act upon them. And then we've got the puppeteer. Nessus is obviously the one from the from Ringworld itself, and utterly perhaps a chance to play one of the stranger alien species in science fiction role playing. I mean, obviously, the Gazin themselves are, anthropomorphic cats, if you will, if you're going to boil it down to very basics, but there's a bit more to them than that, much more to them than that. But essentially, you've got all the details on how to create a puppeteer character. Then we have a known space glossary. And then the character sheet again. So yeah, essentially, that's going to be that's the back, and then you've got the front with all the skills and so on. So it's quite a skill orientated heavy game. So that's the Explorer book. Then we have Game Master book. The other thing to note about it is the style of the book. I mean, that's something that no other role playing game I think has ever done. You know, this Ringworld sort of like fading out to concentrate there on the title of the book itself. Game Master book. You've got an index on the back, just like basic contents on the back there, and that's a feature of all of the books for the Ringworld box set. This is a slimmer book, and it opens up with straight away a section on puppeteer secrets. Now, of course, if you've read the novels, then these will be obvious. But we've got a solid introduction, and then not a guide on how to really run the game, but a guide essentially on the setting, because we've got a series of Ringworld essays about what the Ringworld is, how it works, um, what's on the Ringworld itself. You've actually got a ring, the Ringworld sort of like cross section of the floor. And this is really where it comes into its own as a guide to the Ringworld. It's as one of the most famous, what science fiction defines as big dumb objects in science fiction. It is perhaps the most famous, closely followed by Rama from Rendezvous with Rama by uh, Arthur C. Clarke, which itself would win awards. So you've got quite a lot of technical detail here about the Ringworld. Then we move on to the city builder lore. City builders, essentially, their descendants are those that sort of are met at the end of towards the end of the novel. And then, besides puppeteer secrets, you also have Ringworld mysteries, and this really does make the book itself a guidebook for the game master. So here we have a list of all those secrets, followed by game master notes. And this is here where we actually have proper actual advice, including designing a scenario, using creatures, looking at the effects of technology on play, and so on. And the night sky, essentially, if looking from Earth, where would the Ringworld be? We have a little discussion of Homid technology. This is technology on the Ringworld, not on the in known space. Discusses the effects of gravity there, income, credit rating, and so on. And psionics, not unknown in known space. And you've got several of these. It is possible, certainly, to start a play as someone with a psionic discipline or two. Arguably, you actually have Tila Brown's luck is almost a psionic ability. Or is certainly discussed as I recall in some of the later books. Then we move on to the actual scenario in Ringworld, which is the journey of the cat's eye, which is essentially a journey following in the footsteps of Lewis Wu, Speaker Johannes, Tila Brown, and Nessus, in a general products hull flying to Ringworld. So basic NPCs, various members of the crew. We have a game master synopsis. We have an overview, basic sites, a side view of the general purpose hull and cat's eye, and this is followed by actual deck plans. So this is actually a modified Perrin variant GP hull starship. And then what happens when they land? The player characters land on Ringworld and begin to explore. And this is the area in which they land and can explore and begin to sort of like, discover some of the secrets. And then at the end, we've got a GM glossary. And that's the GM book, the Game Master book for Ringworld. Then we move on to Creatures book. And Got a bit of glue there. Introduction to the creatures book, and a look at the various aliens that the player characters explorers might encounter, or essentially within known space first. So that includes Bandersnatchy, dolphins. In fact, a dolphin is an uplifted dolphin is one of the members of the crew of the Cat's Eye, as I recall. So there's actually quite a lot of detail given to them. They've got the Kadaklitno, and there are plenty of weird and wonderful, interesting species written into the setting. Gazinti and puppeteers have their own section. We've got also a section on the outsiders, essentially the species, essentially that travel between the stars and trade ideas and so on, including in basically a note there about puppeteers and outsiders and how they're connected, and how essentially what that means is how they're connected with the puppeteers' manipulation of both the outsiders and, of course, members of basically humanity within space. The alien species of the pack supposedly disappeared from Ringworld. And in particular, look at the pack engineers of Ringworld. Hominids, basically the various species within within the Ringworld, essentially on the Ringworld. And there we've got a fantastic picture of the ghouls. So numerous different species, different peoples on the Ringworld that the player characters can encounter in the course of their explorations. Machine people, and vampires as well, and then various animals. And then flora, which includes sunflowers, essentially the invasive species which would essentially reflect the power of the sun back to dangerous effect. And that's everything in the creatures book. Of course, it's got its own table of contents on the back. And then the last book is the technology book. So let's look at things that like generators, batteries, computers, autopilot, stuff like that. All the essentially the systems of your ships and medical equipment, including the auto dock used in Ringworld, various medicinal and recreational drugs, tools, and more tools. Essentially, this is the explorer's kit book, as it were. Then we have vehicles. In fly cycle, so there we've got a fly cycle, which is what characters mostly use to get around across the Ringworld. Landers and personal flyers. Then we move on to starships, essentially a discussion of um, the different types, essentially the different types of general products, hulls, weapons, things like the puppeteer disintegrators, slaver disintegrators, laser pistols, that so on, and uh, stunners and variable sword, and then probably the most well known weapons from the Ringworld setting from known space are the variable sword and the task. The variable sword being essentially the monofilament molecular sword, and the task being essentially the weapon essentially just pleasure center of the brains and stuns people, protects devices, and that brings the four core books for Ringworld to a close. Contents page on the back, of course, and we have a Ringworld autopilot printout. This gives you the technical details of the Ringworld as seen from space. Notes on the infinity horizon of looking at that Ringworld from whilst on there. You've got a collection of Ringworld character sheets in here. Notes on things like a day on Ringworld and the dark side of Ringworld, essentially what it's like, and presumably essentially the dark outer surface, the script, I suppose, of or basically the metal of the Ringworld, and then the starry night sky of Ringworld. And lastly, we have a sheet of Explorer figures. So what have we got here? Well, magazine, various humans, and a puppeteer. And these are pretty much standard to Chaosium of the period. These will be um, substitutes essentially for metal figures which weren't being produced on a cheaper option. And last but not least, this actually, if I can get hold of it, a mail-in card for Chaosium to say, you know, I bought your game. I'd like to, you know, I'd like to be getting content, etc., etc. You do not see these in games today. Of course, you basically contacted by email. So that is the Ringworld game. I think it's a fantastic setting, and it's a fantastic role-playing game. I'm looking forward to giving this a good review. I have my opinions upon it already, which I'm not going to say now, particularly. Essentially, it is primarily a role-playing game about exploring a giant dumb artifact, and it's really up to once the player characters and the explorers have got to the Ringworld and played that first scenario, for the game master to really start generating content and making, in some ways, making the Ringworld her own. Since sadly, Ringworld was only supported with this core box set, the Ringworld Companion, and the articles in that issue of Different Worlds. So not hugely developed in terms of a role-playing game per se, but certainly what Ringworld presents is a fantastic treasury of descriptions and contents and details about the Ringworld itself, and to some extent known space, some of which would go on to be essentially canonical in terms of the known space and Ringworld setting. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing of the Nook. It's one that I've been waiting a very long time to do, and I'm very glad to have got to do it. And I absolutely want to, first off, I absolutely have to thank Lee Williams for lending this to me. Thank you. I want to thank him for his generosity and the time for which I've had it. Thank you to you, of course, for watching this unboxing in the Nook. If you enjoyed this, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post this. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here typically with a package or a box, typically a box from which I will unbox and role-playing game, supplement scenario, or other game, to the best extent of my knowledge, for roughly 10 minutes or so. Certainly not in this case. All, of course, accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, definitely in this case. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing. Thanks again to Lee for lending this to me and giving me the time to unbox this on its 40th anniversary. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.